Darwin, tama ba?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, yun po. So, yun na lang naman ang ating tatapusin. So, kapag po natapos natin yung discussion natin today, ang kasunod po na gagawin natin is quiz. Okay? So, I think nabanggit ko naman na po yun sa inyo na after po nitong tatlong topic na ito, you will have your first quiz. At syempre, ang coverage po ay yung discuss natin from Copernicus, Darwin, and Freud. Tapos po, I already posted na yata, some PPTs para po sa susunod nating mga discussion, susunod nating topic. So, mangyayari po nun, ang posting siguro ng siguro ang posting ng quiz natin ay this Saturday. Kaya na ba? This Saturday po yung sinabi ko na nun. Saturday ang quiz natin para kasi di ba Wednesday, Saturday po tayo. Wednesday ko lang naman kayo minimit synchronously. Tapos yung Saturday po dapat yung asynchronous. So, para kung makapag-quiz tayo by Saturday, di Tuesday po, we can start already the next topic.
Wednesday po yung klase natin.
Samir, ano yun? Ano po yun?
Wednesday, Saturday po tayo, ma'am.
Opo, Wednesday, Saturday. Ano sabi ko? Wednesday, Saturday. Ayun po, by Wednesday pala, next week, yung ating, kung makakapag-quiz kayo by Saturday, total posting lang naman po ako ng quiz nyo. Tapos sa Wednesday next week, then we can start pa yung susunod nating topic. Okay po ba yun sa atin? Mag-quiz na tayo by Saturday.
Ma'am?
Yes po, sino ito nagsasalita? Joshua?
Ma'am, ilang oras po yung duration po ng exam po?
The duration of the quiz is 1.5 hour. Okay? The quiz is 35 points. 35 points. 35 items lang. Okay? So, yun. So, I think enough time naman na po yun para po tapusin yung quiz natin. Ganun po talaga ako I think binanggit ko naman yun dati sa inyo during the orientation na pag quiz, 1 hour or 1.5 o minsan 2 oras, depende nga po sa haba ng exam. So, yung quiz po natin, 35 items lang naman ang nagawa ko. So, I think that's enough na, yung 1.5 para po and it's, naman, yung type of questions ay hindi naman po sobrang hirap na you have to, you have to, parang, halimbawa, kung if it is a modified true or false, wherein kailangan, di ba, kailangan mong basahin ng maayos at may analysis pa and all, wala namang gano'n. So, I think, okay na yung 1.5 hours. Yeah. So that will be on Saturday. Saturday. Okay ba yun sa atin? 3-2 and 3-3. Kasi iniisip ko, kung Wednesday pa, by next week, hindi tayo makakapag-klase pa ng Wednesday. Tayo naman yung isang meeting natin. Diba? So, kaya ang plano ko is Saturday sana yung quiz para Wednesday makapag-discuss pa tayo. And then, ayun, bago ako, diba in-inform ko naman na kayo, bago po ako makauwi ng province. So, at least makapag-start pa tayo ng isa pang topic. Okay? So, anyway, wala naman po yata kayo, tama ba? Wala naman na akong binigay pang bagong activity. So, ang activity pa lang naman po natin is yung nauna pa rin, 1, 2, 3. So, wala pa namang bago na dapat po natin gawin. So, tamang-tama lang. So, ang aasikasuhin po muna natin, aaralin po muna natin is yung sa quiz natin. Okay? Okay po ba yun? O, nag-agree.
Okay lang po, ma'am. Thank you po.
Okay. Tapos pag-usapan na lang natin 3-2 and 3-3 kung ano pong oras yung posting. Okay? Yung posting ng quiz natin. Okay, so same na rin po yung oras ng posting both for 3P and 3P. Okay? Para po, hindi yung after 1 hour or 1.5 saka ako magpo-post ulit. So, same na lang din po. Okay? Pag-usapan na lang natin mamaya. Okay? O kayo, pag-usapan nyo, tapos inform nyo ako. Okay? Total posting lang naman po. Pwede mas maaga if you want. Okay? Sige po. Okay, let's start. Attendance muna tayo. 3-2. 3-2. Yeah. Acosta, Audrey. Acosta, Audrey. Audrey, wala. Aquino, John Patrick.
Dito po.
Arca, Giovanni. Armojalias, Daniel. Ballesteros, Mariel.
Present po.
Mariel, okay. Bantugan, Steven. Bautro, Lorien. Tama po ba?
Present po.
Gia, Egeline.
Present po, ma'am.
Cardenas, Angelica. Cardenas.
Present po.
Okay po. Crespo, Joshua.
Present po, ma'am.
De Vera, Mark.
Present po, ma'am.
De Los Reyes, Ivan.
Present po.
Dianela, Marinela.
Present po.
Dones, Nicole.
Present po, ma'am.
Spiritu, Armando. Estrada, Mary Christine. Flores, Patrick.
Mahina daw po signal sa kanila, ma'am.
Okay po. Gutierrez, so hindi pa siya makapasok.
Di daw po, ma'am.
Present po, Gutierrez.
Okay. Hernandez, Manila.
Present po.
Amorabon, A.
Present po.
Kozay, Michael.
Present po.
Lopez, Sophia.
Present po.
Magno, Jessica.
Present po.
Rosario, Emerson. Sida, Christopher. Tanglao, Sean.
Present po.
Taiko, Georgie. Trinidad, Mary Ann Liddy.
Present po, ma'am.
Urbano, Ann.
Present po.
Yabut, Irvin.
Present po.
And Zonyo, Krishna. Okay. So, 3-2 po ang wala. Acosta, Arca, Armojalias, Estrada, Torres, Rosario, Sida, Taiko.
Ma'am, present po, Acosta.
Acosta.
Ma'am Arca po, present.
Yes po.
Arca. Okay. That's it. 3-3. Abuan, Mark.
Present po, ma'am.
Ancot, Von Vincent. Paserdo, Clark. Bahar, Denzel. Baluyot, Janina.
Present po, ma'am. Baluyot.
Basco, Kiel, Russell.
Present po, ma'am.
Batu, Justin.
Present po, Batu.
Okay po. Cabradilia, dito.
Present po.
Calleja, Jessica. Canindo, Remy.
Present po, ma'am. Present po, kanina.
Celis, Proceso. Sid, Amphi Marie.
Present po.
Sofian Marvin,
Present po.
Endona Mikaela,
Present po.
Spinola April,
Present po.
Evangelista Eljan,
Present po.
Tatalvero Dan,
Present po.
Gaton Marilu,
Present po.
Javier Lexan,
Present po.
La Rosa Francisco,
Present po, ma'am.
Mercado Charmaine, Mostasa GM, Nagrampa Andrea,
Present po, nagrampa.
Nieva Carl Nieva, Operina Rodolfo,
Present po. Present po.
Oteiza Jessa,
Oteza po, present.
Palapus Princess,
Palapus po, present.
Pancho Glenda, Pelagyao Nicole,
Pelagyo po, present.
Perez Jana,
Present po.
Po Janelle Marie, Saavedra Angel,
Present po.
Ibug Mark,
Sibog po, present.
Silvestre Sugar, C. Jade,
Present po.
Shaoy Shamir,
Taoy, present po.
and Victohay Maraya.
Victory, present po.
Okay po. So for 3-3, Bahar, Celis, Nieva, and Silvestre. Tapos the rest ng mga correspondence po natin ay wala. Okay? That's it. Tama po ba? Okay, so I guess yun po yun. So, ilan lang naman yung wala. Marami palang correspondence sa 3-3, ano? Sige po. Anyway, again po, no, for today's meeting ay tapusin po natin yung natitira na lang na dapat po nating i-discuss before we proceed with your first assessment, first evaluation po natin, ano, kung somehow ay natuto naman po tayo sa ating mga previous discussions, which will be again by Saturday po. Okay? Sige, let's start. Again, under pa rin po ng scientific revolution, we'll be discussing another individual. This time naman po is in the field of psychology. Is meron tayo ng i-discuss si Sigmund Freud. Okay? And of course, one of his contributions or greatest contributions is yung tinatawag nga po natin psychoanalysis. So, Sigmund Freud, si Sigmund Freud po is an Austrian neurologist and considered po as the founder of psychoanalysis. He was an Austrian physician, neurologist, and founder of psychoanalysis, which is a clinical method for treating psychopathology or the diseases of the mind through a dialogue between the patient and the psychoanalyst. So, Sigmund Freud was born in Czech Republic, or well, now known as Czech Republic, May 6, 1856. And later on, in his life, he entered a medical school in around 1873 at the University of Vienna Medical School, wherein he was trained to become a neurologist, earning a medical degree in 1881. So he focused on exploring the biology of the brain and nervous tissues of humans and other animals. Around 1882, he became a clinical assistant at the General Hospital in Vienna and trained with some known psychiatrists at the time. Then he was also able to complete some important research on the brain's medulla oblongata, since, as I said, ang kanyang focus of study or an interest is about human brain. So he completed some research on the brain's medulla and was appointed lecturer in neuropathology. Then with this slide, I included itong si Ana O, the case of Ana O, in this presentation since nga po, we will be discussing about psychoanalysis as one of the major contributions of Sigmund Freud. So, and sinasabi na isang foundation kung bakit na-create ni Sigmund Freud yung psychoanalytic technique is because of Ana O. So, Ana O or Bertha Pappenheim. So, Ana O was his pseudonym. Bertha Pappenheim was a patient of Dr. Joseph Brewer. So, Dr. Joseph Brewer was a physician and sociologist na siyang nagsabi kay Sigmund Freud about using hypnosis to cure a certain patient known as Bertha Pappenheim or Ana O, of what was then referred as hysteria. So, ito po ay hindi siya patient ni hindi po siya directly patient ni Sigmund Freud, but she was a patient of Dr. Joseph Brewer na siyang nag-treat kay Ana O of what was then referred as hysteria. Hysteria was a psychological disorder whose symptoms include conversion of psychological stress into physical symptoms, selective amnesia, shallow volatile emotion, and even overdramatic or attention-seeking behavior. Among other symptoms pa, katulad po ng nandito sa slide natin, from partial paralysis, na yung right arm, if I'm not mistaken, right arm yata, and leg of Ana O, experience paralysis, blurred vision, headaches, and even hallucinations. So, kumbaga yung hysteria is a collective term for all the symptoms that manifested on Ana O. So, during the treatment, talking about Ana's experiences seemed to offer some relief from her symptoms that was later found out by Brewer, without the treatment as the talking cure or the talking therapy. So, yun po yung yung naging treatment ni Ana O, talking cure or talking therapy, in which Dr. Joseph Brewer allows the patient to talk, whatever na nasa unconscious mind daw po ni Ana O, is kumbaga from the unconscious, dinadala niya doon sa conscious awareness, sa conscious state niya, para mas mabilis ma-treat any kind of symptoms na meron si Ana O. So, although, kasi pa rin siya under hypnosis ibig sabihin, though inaalaw ni Dr. Brewer na magsalita itong si Ana O, na kung saan nga po yung mga traumatic experience niya, mga painful memories niya, is nasasabi niya during the session, during the treatment, but still under the control of the doctor, of Dr. Joseph Brewer, kasi under hypnosis So yun po. Then, Freud never actually met Ana O. Ana O's story fascinated Freud, and it served as a basis for studies on hysteria. Remember na ito pong dalawa, si Dr. Joseph Brewer and Sigmund Freud, made this book entitled Studies on Hysteria, kung saan po nakapaloob nga yung lahat ng tungkol sa kay Ana O or Bertha Pappenheim, yung case niya. Okay? So, Brewer's description of her treatment led Freud to conclude that hysteria was rooted in childhood sexual abuse. Ayan. So, ito yung isa sa naging rason kung bakit po, well, initially, di ba, okay itong dalawa, okay ito si Sigmund Freud at saka si Dr. Joseph Brewer. But eventually, hindi sila nagkasundo, at isang reason nga po doon ay yung Freud's insistence on sexuality as a cause, as a cause of hysteria, as a cause of those symptoms that manifested on Ana O. So, it eventually led to a rift between Freud and Brewer na hindi nga po nag-share ng same idea with Sigmund Freud. So, as Brewer and Sigmund Freud parted ways, Freud would continue his work in the development of the talk therapy or the talking cure na tinatawag as a treatment for different mental illnesses, not just hysteria. So, the case of Berta Pappenheim influenced the development of psychoanalytic treatment. Specifically, yung tinatawag ng pre-association technique. But remember class, that when we say psychoanalytic treatment, no, marami siyang technique and method. So, and one of these techniques na ginagamit po under psychoanalysis is yung tinatawag na pre-association technique, in which almost same with the treatment na ginawa ni Dr. Joseph Brewer, but the difference is kumbaga not under the control of the doctor, of the psychoanalyst. Kumbaga hindi siya subjected to hypnosis. So kay Sigmund Freud, the association technique, just allowing the patient to talk freely, whatever came into his mind, yun yung nakitang paraan ni Sigmund Freud, at mas effective siya to improve the communication between the doctor or the psychoanalyst and the patient. Okay, tapos ito po mga sumunod na slide, pinakita lang dito class yung iba't ibang mga symptoms that manifested on Ana O. As I said earlier, yung sakit na hysteria ni Ana O was a collective term for all those symptoms na nagmanifest kay Ana O. That Dr. Joseph Brewer even summarized the illness of Ana O in different stages, in 4 stages. Ito nga yung una, yung tinatawag na latent incubation. Latent incubation or latency incubation, in which beginning July 1880 until December of the same year, Ana O's illness started. So Sigmund Freud stated that in other patients, the signs of the hysteria, the signs of the illness would not be noticeable. But since si Ana O po ay mayroong mga exceptional symptoms, it resulted in it being clearly observable by others. Tapos, nasundan niyan yung tinatawag na manifest illness. When we say manifest illness, ito naman yung panahon na yung mga symptoms ni Ana O is diverse and most severe. Okay? Meaning, ito na yung naglabasan lahat, parang ganun yung mga symptoms sa kanya. So, from simple cough, hanggang nagkaroon siya ng selective hanggang may mga hallucination siya. So, kumbaga, from simpleng ubunga hanggang dumating sa ganung punto. So, symptoms are at their most severe. Yun po yung second stage in Dr. Joseph Brewer's summary of Ana O's illness. So, sinasabi na Ana O began to make a recovery, but this was interrupted in April 1881 when her ill father passed away. So parang sinasabi ni Brewer na there was a time na kumbaga parang na nawala yung mga symptoms, hindi ganun kagrabe yung mga symptoms ni Ana O. Hindi nakikita. But merong nag-trigger ulit para po mag-manifest ulit yung mga symptoms na yun. At isa sa mga trigger na yun is yung na-dead niya, yung kanyang father. So, in which nagkaroon pa siya ng mga suicide. Okay? And actually, doon din nagsimula yung iba pang mga symptoms niya. Like, eto mga to. Okay? Yung pagiging hydrophobic, lethargy, language difficulties, and many more. Okay? Hindi lang po ito. So there was a time daw po na parang several days or a week na hindi umiinom ng tubig. Itong si Ana O. There was a time na naging hydrophobic. Hindi po buong duration ng niya. Di ba kanina sabi ko parang 1880 nag-start na yung symptoms niya. So hindi po buong taon, or ilang buwan, parang pabago-bago, pa iba-iba yung mga nagiging symptoms niya. So there was a time na during her stay doon sa hospital together with her father na dying naging hydrophobic siya. So there were days na hindi siya umiinom. Okay? So during the treatment of Dr. Joseph Brewer, during the talking cure therapy, nalaman nila na meron palang certain traumatic childhood memory itong si si Anna O, na later on, nung adult na siya, ay naging hydrophobic siya because of the traumatic. Well, traumatic pala kay Anna O. Have you read that? Kung ano yung reason for this? Bakit naging hydrophobic si Anna O? Anyone? May nakapagbasa po ba? Anyone from 3-2 or 3-3? Wala. Okay, so anyway po, yung sinasabi ko na reason kung bakit naging hydrophobic ito si Anna O was during the talking cure or therapy na naman ni Dr. Joseph Brewer, na sabi ni Anna O na nung bata pa siya, meron siyang nanny, tapos yung nanny niya may dog, tapos yung dog feed niya. Okay, so for some reason, hindi niya gusto yung aso na yun, tapos nakita niya yung aso uminom dun sa baso niya na may tubig. So, that simple scenario, that simple experience ng bata pala siya is naging traumatic sa kanya. Na pagdating ng itong, certain later sa buhay niya, adult na po siya, is nag-manifest yung ganung traumatic experience. Traumatic pala yung ganun sa kanya. That's why naging hydrophobic siya for some days. Okay? Tapos, ayan, lethargy, katulad lang kita dyan sa picture. Tapos, language difficulties. So, Anna's treatment is talking therapy or field. And so, psychoanalysis. So, psychoanalysis is a set of theories and therapeutic techniques related to the study of the unconscious mind, which together form a method of treatment for mental health disorders. Remember na ang focus of study ni Sigmund Freud, actually ganun din kay Brewer, is bringing those unconscious anxieties such as hallucinations and traumatic experiences to the conscious attention. Kasi nga, mas naniniwala sila na from the unconscious mind natin, pag dinala mo yan, inakit mo yan dun sa conscious state natin, mas mabilis na ma-overcome yung mga painful or traumatic experiences na yun. Okay? So, yan. So, ito nga po yung unconscious mind natin. Kung saan gumamit si Sigmund Freud nitong iceberg nito para ipakita kung ano po yung alin yung nasa conscious mind natin, tapos ang subconscious or preconscious, and then yung tinatawag na unconscious mind. So, the conscious mind, the small amount of mental activity we know about. So, it includes our thoughts, it includes our perceptions, tapos anything na we are aware. Okay? So, it contains thoughts, memories, feelings, wishes of which we are aware at any given moment. Okay? So, meron din tinatawag na subconscious, or the pre-conscious, anything that could be potentially be brought into our conscious mind. So, things we could be aware of if we wanted or if we tried. So, maaaring limot mo ngayon, maya-maya, naalala mo na. Okay? So, that includes your memories or stored knowledge. Tapos, yung pinakamalaking parte nitong iceberg na to, na ginamit ni Sigmund Freud na analogy to describe the three levels of our mind. So, the unconscious, things we are unaware of and cannot become aware of. So, this includes your instincts, your fear, unacceptable sexual desires, the violent motives, irrational wishes, immoral urges, selfish needs, painful experiences, and traumatic experiences. So, sinasabi ni Sigmund Freud na yung id part of our psyche, of our mind, is nandito po sa, or yung id part ng personality po natin is nandito sa unconscious mind. Okay? Again, itong image na to, is Sigmund Freud developed a topographical model of our mind whereby he described the features of our mind structure and function. And again, he utilizes this analogy of an iceberg to describe the three levels of our mind. from the conscious mind, yung exposed na part of the iceberg, and then followed by the subconscious or the pre-conscious. And yung pinakamalaking parte daw po, no, ng ano natin, ng psych or mind po natin is the unconscious part. Then in 1923, Freud later developed a more structural model of the mind comprising the entities, the id, the ego, and the superego. So these are not physical areas within the brain, but rather hypothetical conceptualizations of important mental functions. So, kinuha ko lang po sa internet, itong image po na ito para makita natin how id, ego, and superego are different according to Sigmund Freud. Anyone who wants to discuss, or explain further about this image? How is it different with ego, and how is ego different with this two, with superego and ego? Anyone from the class who wants to explain further about this image? Anyone from 3-3 or 3-2?
Ako po, try ko po, ma'am.
Saglit po ha, hindi ko nakita yung pangalan. Sino po yung nagsalita? Next
Ako
time.
po, ma'am. Ma'am, dinig po.
Yes po.
So, yung sa id po is more on pleasure principle po siya na kung saan is nagiging po yung, kumbaga, through yung desire po nung person po. And sa yung super ego naman po is more on morality principle na kung saan is binibase yung yung ano yung standard nung yung ano yung tama or mali doon sa yun, alam mo ako. Kumbaga yung sineset niya yung standards based dun sa moral yung kung ano yung moral nung
Kung ano yung position mo, di ba? Ano yung tinuturo sa yung tama at mali?
Opo, yun po. Tapos yung sa ego naman po is more on reality principle po na kung saan kailangan pong pagbalansehin yung id saka super ego kasi kapag naging naging dominant po yung id, magkakaroon po ng chaotic na personality po yung tao. Tapos kapag naging dominant naman po yung super ego po, mas magiging rigid po yung personality po ng tao. Kaya kailangan po pag-balance, parang mag-compensate po yung ego po dun between id sa super ego po. Ayun.
Very good. Salamat po. Ayun. So, tama po yun, yung explanation niya, discussion about this id. So, the id nga po, not naman the evil yung picture. But, ayun nga, when we say kasi id, that's the impulsive part of our mind. So, of our psyche, which responds directly and immediately to our basic urges, needs, and desires. So, kung sabihin, ano nararamdaman mo, nagugutom ka ba? Di kumain ka. Nauuhaw ka ba? Uminom ka. Diba? So, dito pumapasok yung mga life instincts natin, yung tinatawag na eros, yung mga life-sustaining activities natin. Dito din pumapasok yung mga death instincts natin or thanatos na tinatawag, which is a set of destructive forces present in all human beings. So, pag sinabi natin it should be saglit lang po ha, saglit lang. Okay, so yun. Ayan. So anyway, ayun po. Pag sinabi natin id, again, this is the impulsive part of our mind. Okay? No, pag sinabi... Yes po, sige.
Hello ma'am. So bali, in specific lang po, doon po sa Eros and Thanos, parang si Eros po yung parang most of the time life instinct natin to survive. Pero yung Thanatos po, parang tinuturing po siya ni Freud na death instinct po kasi mas destructive yung forces niya na pinipresent sa isang human being. Like for example po, yung isang tao kapag mas matimbang po yung id niya compare po sa super ego and sa ego, nawawala po yung balance and yung expression niya po is mas nagiging violent. Kaya po naniniwala po si Freud na mas malakas po si Eros compared to Thanatos. And most of the time po yung mga criminals po ma'am, na parang yung instinct po nila kapag po yung, di ba po, mga hold up, tapos pagka po feeling nila na manlalaban yung hino-hold up nila, mas umiiral po yung id instinct nila, yung for survival or yung eros po. Kaya ang tendency nasasaksak or nakakalabit po nila yung gatilyo and napapatay po nila yung victim or yung hino-hold up po nila. Ayun lang po.
Po, salamat. Okay, meron pa ba na gustong magdagdag about the id part of our mind? Wala na. Okay, so anyway, tama po yun, Tama po yung specific example na binigyan niya. Okay? Tapos, and then for the superego, okay, yung superego naman po, that's the morality. Okay, morality. So, it develops during our early childhood. It operates on the morality principles and it motivates us to behave in a socially responsible and acceptable manner. So, yung sinasabi nga kanina ni Letsa na ito yung itinuturo sa atin, bata pa lang, o ito yung gawin mo kasi ito yung tama, ito yung hindi mo dapat gawin kasi ito yung mali. So, kumbaga, ito yung nagsiset ng standard kung what is right and what is wrong, diba? Kung based sa ating social norm. Now, yung ego naman po is the reality, which operates in both our conscious and unconscious mind. So, the ego's goal is to, pang-balance nga siya. So, to satisfy the demands of the id in a safe and socially acceptable way. So, kumbaga, mapagbibigyan si id, but at the same time, ganun din si super ego. Okay? So, parang kung kanina, sabi ko, pag nauuhaw ka, kung pag-iiralin mo yung id, ibang tendency, edi uminom ka. Yun lang yung sagot doon. Now, nauuhaw ka, may nakita kang baso or may tubig. So, kung idang paiiralin mo, kunin mo na agad yun, inumin mo na. Okay? Now, kung super ego naman paiiralin mo, siyempre, limited ka sa atin pag hindi sa'yo, di ba? Huwag mo kunin. So, hindi sa'yo yun, di mo alam kung kanina yun, hindi mo kukunin kahit uhaw ka na. So, to balance, di ba, na hindi naman masusuppress na yung uhaw mo, yung gusto mo eat, at hindi mo naman ganun din, masusuppress yung super ego, kailangan nandiyan yung ego natin. So, in decision making, anong dapat natin gawin sa ganung scenario? Diba? So, either hanapin mo kung kanino ba yun, pwede ka magtanong kung kanino po ba yun, at pwede mag-inom yun. So, in that case, balance diba? So, balance si id at the same time, your super ego. Okay? Okay, then, excuse me, another is the psychosexual stages. Isa rin kasi yung pinaniniwalaan ni Sigmund Freud na tayo daw po, human beings, we are born with a libido na tinatawag. We are born with the sexual urges or pleasure. So, Freud believed that our personality developed through this series of childhood stages in which our pleasure-seeking energies of the id become focused on certain areas of our body or certain erogenous zone na tinatawag. So, or erogenous zone or source of pleasure. So, and our behavior is kumbaga nakabase dito. Yung psychosexual energy or libido is described as the driving force for our behavior, behind our behavior. So, Sigmund Freud's psychosexual stages includes the oral, the anal, phallic, latent, and genital stage. So, yung una is oral stage, as the name suggests, ibig sabihin, yung source of pleasure or the erogenous zone is the mouth or the oral cavity. So, that includes activities like sucking, swallowing, etc. So, this is from birth to 1 month, birth to 1 year. So, Kaya kung napapansin nyo, no, baka meron kang kapatid, pamangkin, na mostly pag nasa ganong edad ko, no, ay anything na ibigay mo sa kanya, no, katulad baby ko, 10 months. So, kahit anong mahawakan niya, ang tendency is to pasok na talaga sa bibig niya. So, totoo nga naman yung sinasabi ni Sigmund Freud. Okay? So, kasi nga daw po, sa ganong panahon, sa ganong edad, ang ano natin, ang source of pleasure or erogenous zone is in the mouth. Tapos, next to oral is anal. So, the anus is the erogenous zone. So, withholding or expelling feces. Ibig sabihin, yung potty training is best at this stage. This is from 1 to 3 years old. Okay? So, yung potty training, magandang gawin dito, i-train yung mga bata because, yun nga, yung kanilang erogenous area is the anus. Wala ka naman makikita ng nagpapotty train ng 6 na buwan pa lang o nagpapotty train ng 10 taon na. Diba? So, it's around 1 to 3 years old. And then, phallic. Phallic is the next stage in which the erogenous zone is the genitalia, the penis for men, and the clitoris for women. So, one of the activities is masturbation. So it's around 3 to 6 years old. So again, yung yung erogenous zone is the genital. So in this stage, the children can discover now the difference between male and female. Dito rin daw po nagsisimula yung konseptong kung alam niyo yung tinatawag na mama's boy, daddy's girl, yung mga ganong concept. Or specifically, dito po nagsimula yung tinatawag natin Oedipus complex. Diba? Kung binasa niyo na po yan, no? Sigmund Freud believed that a child na can develop a certain, parang tinitingnan niya as rival, no? Rival for affection, for love, and attention, yung same sex na parent. Tapos rival doon sa attention and love ng opposite sex parent. So during the time of Sigmund Freud, yung konsepto na yun ay tinawag na Oedipus complex regardless if it is a young boy or a young girl. But later on, nagkaroon ng distinction yan, nagkaroon ng tinatawag na Electra complex. Yun nga po ulit, yung nag-introduce ng concept na Electra complex in which specifically ito ay ginamit na same dun sa Oedipus complex, pero specifically this is for young girls na nagde-develop ng parang nagde-develop ng affection, love doon sa kanyang sa opposite sa tatay, tapos tingin niya ay rival niya yung kanyang nanay. So that's Electra complex. So almost the same with Oedipus complex. Who was this individual na tinutukoy ko po?
Carl Jung po.
Okay. So remember dito po sa latter part ng presentation I included some individuals, yung mga Neo-Freudians na tinatawag, na somehow they agree with Sigmund Freud's idea and concept, but at the same time, meron din silang sarili. Kumbaga, they incorporated some of their ideas doon sa concept ni Sigmund Freud. So anyway, that's on the phallic stage. The latent stage, nakalagay dyan, little or no sexual motivation present. Kasi, kumbaga, the libido becomes inactive at this age or at this certain stage according to Sigmund Freud. So, kaya po, kumbaga dun sa mga naunang sa mga naunang psychosexual stages, there's certain erogenous zone or erogenous area or body part kung saan po nakafocus yung attention ng isang individual. Pagdating sa latency stage, wala po, inactive. The individual is more focused on hindi sa sarili niya, but focused on how to develop certain relationships with other people. So, developing relationships with their peers, with their friends, at iba pa. Okay? So, tapos, kasunod, that's from 6 to puberty. And then kasunod po nun, is yung genital stage, in which the erogenous zone are, again, the genitals, and one of the activities is sexual intercourse or copulation. Since the genital stage is when an individual is directed toward the formation of adult relationship. And of course, it takes place after puberty age. So, kaya po, naka-indicate siya yung sexual intercourse or copulation as one of the activities, major activities for this stage. So, it's very important, sabi ni Sigmund Freud, na madaanan ng isang tao itong 5 psychosexual stages. Ayan. Ayan. To be psychologically healthy, we must successfully complete each stage. Mental abnormality can occur if a stage is not completed successfully and the person becomes fixated in a particular stage. So this particular theory shows how adult personality is determined by childhood experiences. So meron siyang tinatawag na pong fixation, na kung hindi mo magagawa yung mga activities na yun, kung hindi mo madadaanan yung bawat stage successfully, psychosexual stage, kung masusuppress yung mga yun, then it would lead to fixation. Fixation is the persistent focus on the earlier psychosexual stage. So, meron mga tao na na-fixate, or na-stuck siya dun sa certain psychosexual stage na yun. So, in this case, makikita niyo po yung mga example ng activities na ginagawa ng isang individual kapag siya ay fixated on a certain psychosexual stage. Okay? And from oral, forceful feeding, deprivation, or weaning, etc. So, it's either kung kulang, or nasobrahan ka naman dun sa mga psychosexual stages na yun. So, and an individual will become fixated in that particular psychosexual stage. So, kumbaga, ano man yung certain behavior mo ngayon as an adult, ay reflection lang po yan ng mga naging experiences mo yung bata. Okay? Sabi ni Sigmund Freud. Okay? Then, what is this? Dream analysis. So, remember that aside from the psycho, magkakarugtong din naman po itong mga konsepto na ito, So, remember class na isa pa po sa naging contribution ni Sigmund Freud is about dream analysis. Freud in 1900 considered dreams to be the royal road to the unconscious mind. Since dreams daw po is ego's defense, during dreams, the ego's defenses are lowered so that some of our repressed material comes through to awareness, albeit in distorted form. Dreams perform an important function, perform important function for the unconscious mind and serves as a valuable clue to how the unconscious mind operates. So he even Sigmund Freud even wrote, and published a book with regards to dream analysis. So the title is The Interpretation of Dreams. So in which he explained that dreams were simply wish fulfillment, and that the analysis of our dreams could lead to treatment of some mental illnesses or mental disorders like neurosis. Okay, and then the last po ay yung about the defense mechanism. To avoid pain, to avoid anxiety and depression, we individuals, consciously or unconsciously utilizes this defense mechanism. Okay, so sabi ko consciously or unconsciously because as we discuss these different defense mechanisms, makita po natin dyan na meron dyan na you're consciously, aware kung ano po itong class ng defense mechanism na ginagawa mo, to avoid that painful reality or painful fact, di ba? So sometimes consciously or most of the time, unconscious defense mechanism. Okay? Marami po nito, so I just included some. Okay? Ito po yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Tapos itong nasa kanan ay dinagdag ko lang yan during our discussion sa mga previous classes po. So, since dinagdag ko na yan dyan, so i-discuss na rin po natin. Okay? So, let's start muna dito sa repression. So, sa description po naka-indicate, repression is the unconscious mechanism employed by the ego to keep disturbing or threatening thoughts from becoming conscious. Example? Ayan, so I guess marami na kayong bibigyan na example dyan. Can we provide a specific example for repression?
Ma'am?
Yes po. Sino yung nagsasalita? Samir? Ikaw po ba yun? Okay. Sige po.
Halimbawa po ng repression, ma'am, kunyari po nakagat po ako nung bata ako ng spider, or parang yung sa isang movie po dun sa K-drama na natatakot, nung malaki na po siya, natatakot po siya sa spider kahit maliit lang. Turns out, nung bata pa po pala siya, meron po siyang nakitang spider po nung babae na nagbigte sa pinuntahan niyang lumang bahay. So parang nung na-open up po yung childhood niya, parang doon lang po na-realize nung girlfriend niya na, kaya pala siya ganun yung takot niya sa spider kasi nare-relate niya yung nakita niyang patay na tao sa tabi ng spider.
Okay, so tama po yun. So, when you say repression, kanina, di ba, nung nag-introduce ako ng topic about defense mechanism, in-emphasize ko na some are unconscious and unconscious type of defense mechanism. So with repression, naka-indicate po dyan, it's the unconscious defense mechanism employed by an organism, by an individual. Kumbaga, involuntary removal from our awareness, involuntary removal from our conscious mind. Okay? So, hindi mo naman sinadya na kalimutan katulad ng specific example ni Shamir. So, but because it's very traumatic na sabi niya kanina nakakita ng ng namatay na tao. So, that very traumatic na memory niya yung bata siya is imagine mo kasi kung very traumatic yung memory na yun sa'yo. So mula bata ka, everyday mo siyang maaalala, diba? O anong mangyayari sa'yo, di ba po? So that's why unconsciously, yung utak po natin, nirepress yung yung very traumatic memory na yun sa ating utak. Okay? Again, to avoid pain, anxiety, yung mga ganun. Okay? So completely blocking out your thoughts, mga negative thoughts, negative experiences, painful experiences, and memories. Now, how is repression different with denial? Almost same with repression, but entirely different. Kasi po, pag sinabi natin denial, how is it different with repression? Question po yun. Question po yun. Anyone? Almost same, di ba? Basahin niyo po yung basahin niyo yung definition or description of denial. Blocking external events din, same with repression from awareness. If some situation is just too much to handle, the person just refuses to experience it. Okay, so the person just refuses to experience it. Ibig sabihin, almost same sabi ko nga with repression, di ba? Blocking those negative thoughts and painful memories or experiences. But this time, when you say denial, it's more of what? It's more of what?
Hello, ma'am?
Aware ka po.
Aware ka po. Aware ka po. Kaya inulit kong basahin yung the person just refuses to experience it. Just refuse it. Gets mo na. Alam mo na. Okay? You're just blinding yourself to those negative concepts, to those painful fact or reality. Again, blinding, di ba? Blinding yourself. So either subconscious or conscious, okay, conscious process of blinding yourself to those painful facts. So yun yung yun yung distinction niya with repression. Okay? So kumbaga nasa harapan mo na denial, di ba? Hindi mo pa tinatanggap. Okay? Now, projection is the next, involving individuals attributing their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, and motives to another person. Projection. Meaning, meron kang problema sa isang tao, di ba? Pero iniisip mo, instead na isipin mo na ikaw talaga yung may problema dun sa taong yun, iniisip mo siya may problema sa'yo. Di ba? Yes po.
Parang parang inggit.
Inggit? Ba't ko nasabing inggit?
Wala lang po. Kasi parang ma'am, yung minsan po may mga marites na, may mga marites po na yung pag-uusapan ka ng pag-uusapan na kesyo ganito ka, na yung mga negative terms. Pero yung totoo po is sila po talaga yung meron ng mga attributes na sinasabi nila dun sa tao na
Yung
sinira.
nagsasalita, di ba? Yung artist, parang yan ang sinasabi mo.
Opo.
Okay. Paano naman? Oo nga naman. Okay, so, kumbaga, production, di ba? Yun nga, tinitingnan mo yung isang tao na siya yung may inggit, siya yung may problema sa'yo, siya yung galit sa'yo, pero in reality, ikaw po talaga yung may problema dun sa tao mo. Okay? So, and the next is displacement. Ito, para mabilis tayo. How is displacement different with sublimation? Almost same, but again, different.
To sa pag-displace mismo ng emotions, sa displacement ang mas nilalagay dito yung emotion sa an object, sa substitute object. Sometimes sublimation is yung i-displace mo yung sexual feelings it's either sa ibang tao or sa bagay na ginagawa.
So parang sinasabi mo, si Mariah ba ito? Nasasalita?
Yes po.
Ayun. So parang sinasabi mo na, parang with displacement, it's more of an object, tama ba? Tapos pag
I-displace yung aggression towards sa substitute object or sa ibang tao na inosente.
Okay.
Kasi sublimation naman po, di-displace yung attention, yung sexual urges sa paggawa ng mas mapakipakinabang na bagay, ganun.
Okay. So, kaya nga po, yung natin dyan in sublimation, in a socially, satisfying an impulse or like aggression with a substitute object but in a socially acceptable way. Diba? Yung tipong, grabe yung inis mo dun sa isang tao. But instead na i-focus mo yung inis mo sa taong yun o kaya naman sa ibang tao na wala na, sabi mo, inosente, ang tendency is, ubusin mo na lang lahat ng inis mo at galit mo sa diba? So pag punta ka ng gym, diba? Ubusin mo lahat ng inis mo doon, ng energy mo doon, diba? Pag lumabas ka ng gym, okay ka na. Na-release mo na yung inis mo, yung lahat na galit mo dun sa certain tao na yun. Or yung mga nakaka-create ng isang kanta, mga nakaka-create ng magandang tula out of breakdown. Diba ganon? So those are an example of sublimation, diba? Merong certain painful experience kasi nga nakipag-break o nasaktan. Pero coming from that is they were able to create something good. Okay? Yun yung sublimation. So you direct your energy into something, into either creating, yung mga ganong klase ng output, but in a good way. Okay? Now, si displacement, it's more of displacement from one person to another or from a person to a certain object. Diba? So it's more of the negative, parang negative side ng defense mechanism, wherein yung energy mo naman is you're directing it to another person na sabi mo inosente, wala namang kinalaman. Visit ka dun sa boss mo, pag uwi mo, wala namang ginagawa yung kapatid mo, sinisigawan mo na. Konting kibot, visit ka na. So, yung mga ganon. So, yun po yung displacement. At madalas mangyari yun sa atin, di ba? At doon kung napapansin po natin yan na from time to time, ay gumagamit po tayo ng iba't ibang defense mechanism. Okay? And then, meron dito yung regression. Okay? Regression is a movement back in psychological time when one is faced with stress. Can we provide a specific example of regression?
Ma'am, nail biting po. As an
Nail biting po. So, yeah, tama naman yun. Yung mga, kumbaga nasa adult age ka na, pero you're doing childlike behavior, So, just like yung nail biting. Actually, yung nail biting dun sa fixation, di ba? Sinasabi isang yun, na pag nag-nail bite ka, ibig sabihin fixated ka dun sa, sa oral stage. May mga ganong klase ng, pag sinabi ng nating regression, as name suggests, regress, ibig sabihin, ito na yung edad mo, dapat you're mature enough to do certain activities, pero po, may mga childlike behavior ka nga po na ginagawa pa. So, an example pa is, halimbawa doon yung mag-asawa, nag-aaway. So, kapag ang desisyon ng isa ay umuwi, nag-alsabalutan, tapos uwi, iniwan yung bahay, iniwan yung asawa, tapos umuwi doon sa sarili na, sa magulang na, parang gano'n. So, it's an act of regression daw po, yung gano'ng klase ng decision making. Kasi, if you're mature enough, to handle that kind of situation, ang dapat po nun daw ay hindi aalis, hindi mag-aalsabalutan, pag-usapan mag-asawa, or pag di pa ready, kung ka lang tulog ka, tapos the next day pag-usapan. Pero, dun sa ginawa niya, regression yun. Kasi pag umuwi ka sa sarili mong pamilya, umuwi ka sa magulang mo, ang tendency is, you will feel safe, at the same time, protected, sure ka na, paano yun kaya, sure ka na, paniniwalaan ka, diba? Sure ka na kakampihan ka, diba? Parang ganun po yun. So, kaya sinasabi that kind of decision, is an act of regression. Okay. Tapos dito, sa kanan, meron 3 dyan na idagdag. So, i-discuss na rin po natin. Just in case meron po sa inyo, meron po bang nakapagbasa about this 3? Ritual and undoing is another type of defense mechanism. Anyone na meron nakapagbasa po ba yan about ritual and undoing? Wala po ba? Ritual and undoing.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes po.
Try ko lang po. Yung sa may, yung defense mechanism po kapag sa undoing, parang kunyari po may iniisip po yung isang tao na very destructive or unhealthy po or mga threatening thoughts. Instead po na gawin niya yun, parang nagiging over nice po siya sa ibang tao.
Okay. Hindi po kaya yun, hindi po kaya yun reaction formation?
Hindi ko po alam mo
parang it's more of reaction formation. Yung yung ang tawag dyan, yung binibigay nating example. I don't know kung ako lang ba, or parang kasi nung mga nakaraan, nag-viral to. Yung kung naalala niyo sa Facebook, merong nag-viral na parang video yun ng dalagita or bata na birthday niya. Tapos, ang daming handa, tapos may money cake, tapos hinuhugot yung money from the cake, tapos pero nakabusangot yung bata.
Apo.
Naalala niyo ba yan?
Yes.
Mga nakaraan. Diba? Tapos ang dami ng comment na, ano ba yan? Parang not
Hindi masaya.
Oo, di masaya. Napaka-ungrateful naman kasi ang dami ng handa. Tapos parang may gadget pa yata na regalo dun sa bata. So, ang dami ng nega na comment. Tapos later on, nalaman pala na yung backstory nun is parang ano ba yan, yung nag-promise yata yung parents niya na nasa abroad na uuwi. Tapos nabasa ko lang yun dun sa isa sa mga siguro kilala yung bata or what. So parang nag-promise daw yung parents na uuwi. Kasi parang mom and dad working abroad, tapos nag-promise na uwi para sa birthday niya, tapos hindi nagawa. So instead na umuwi is nag-send na nga lang ng money para panghanda. So bongga yung naging handa, tapos may money pick siya, tapos parang may iPad pa yata or basta may gadget na binigay para dun sa anak. So, yun po ay isang example ng ritual and undoing. Okay? So parang i-undo yung negative, not naman negative, pero yun nga, hindi kasi nagawa yung promise nung magulang na umuwi.
Parang hindi po ma'am nami-meet yung expectation.
Parang gano'n. Okay? So, i-undo mo yun. So, paano mo i-undo yung hindi mo nagawa? So, edi gano'n. Ganun. Ang tendency is magbigay ng ayun mga typical sa mga magulang na very busy. Very busy sa trabaho, sa negosyo, wala ng oras sa mga anak. So, ang tendency, pag may isang panahon dyan, may isang event sa school na miss nila, hindi nakapunta, bibigyan na lang ng reward. Diba? Parang ganun po yung ritual and undoing. Now, yung example po kanina, yung parang, sinasabi mo kanina, yung parang, ito yung feeling mo, tapos,
Opo. Tapos iba po yung ginagawa. Parang dahil po yung nasa isip, tapos nagtatry po siya na mas maging good or nice po yung mismong actions niya.
Okay, so parang yung feeling mo dun sa isang tao, tapos instead of showing that negative na emotion or feeling dun sa tao, binabaliktad mo. Parang good kayo, dalawa. Parang ganun po ba?
Apo ma'am, parang kunyari po sa reunion, ganun. Kunyari po may tita na nagtanong, ba't ang taba mo? So parang nasa isip mo naiinis ka na, pero parang sa actions mo po parang ngingiti-ngiti ka lang. Yung ganun po.
Okay. So yun po ay isang example ng reaction formation. Okay? So yun po ay parang making up for that negative feeling or emotion. Okay? By showing off the reverse, the baliktad. Okay, so yun po yung reaction formation. Okay, hate mo yung tao, not naman hate. Pero yun nga, maaaring hindi mo siya gusto, may negative kang emotion, pero instead of showing that, baliktad, hindi ginagawa. Okay? Tapos yung panghuli, madalas din natin itong gawin to, yung rationalization. Okay? As a kind of defense mechanism. Anyone who wants
Ma'am,
to explain further about rationalization and can provide a specific example? Sige po. Ma'am, sino po yung nagsalita? Dito.
Ma'am, sa rationalism po is parang dinadivert mo yung attention mo sa mas parang brighter side after mong maka-experience ng stressful or anxiety-filled experience. Tapos example po siya is, kunyari po, natalo ka po sa isang contest, tapos you're saying to yourself na you're happy dun sa result and at least walang mabigat, right? Wala kang mabigat na responsibility na iti-take after nung contest, parang ganun po.
Parang making excuses. Tama ba?
Opo. Kumbaga po, parang sasabihin mo sa sarili mo na you're happy, pero syempre, contest yun, so parang hindi ka rin masaya na natalo ka, ganun. Pero sinasabi mo sa sarili mo na you're happy na hindi ka nanalo, na okay lang, na at least na enjoy mo, ganun po.
Okay, but actually, yun nga, hindi rin okay na hindi ka nanalo, parang gano'n.
Yes po.
Okay, so naman po yun. So, that's rationalization, parang justifying and making excuses, diba? Excusing your mistake or misdeed with some reasons. So, ayan, magbigay ka na lang ng mga, i-justify mo yung nangyari, okay? So, halimbawa, may gusto ka sa isang tao, tapos nalaman mo, di ka pala gusto niya. Tapos, hindi, okay lang, kasi pangit niya naman mga ganun. Diba? So, okay lang, ganito, ganyan. So, you're giving, excuses or reason kung bakit na okay lang naman. Okay? Or sabihin mo na lang siguro na, hindi naman talaga siya type. Diba? Or, halimbawa, mga estudyante, o minsan, pag halimbawa, di pumasa sa exam, sabihin, kasi, hindi ako kasi,
Isisisi po sa teacher.
Oo. Halimbawa, hindi naman ito tinuro Parang gano'n. O kaya naman, hindi maayos yung pagkakabigay ng question. Nakakalito naman yung mga gano'n. But in reality,
Kinukonsuelo po yung sarili.
kinokonselo yung sarili. Pwede
Grades
naman.
is just a number.
Oo, pwede yun. So, yung mga ganun po, no? So, kaya sinasabi ko nga kanina na madalas po natin, na-experience o ginagawa itong mga defense mechanisms na to. So, I don't know kung conscious tayo dun, or unconsciously nga po ay ginagawa natin itong mga defense mechanisms na to.
Ma'am, ngayon conscious na po kami, ma'am.
Conscious na. So, ayun nga. Okay, so again, these are some of the defense mechanisms, na ginagawa po natin, at to avoid pain, di ba? To avoid the sad reality or painful, reality or experiences. Okay? Or for some, may mga traumatic experiences po natin. Okay? So again, this presentation will end. Ay, hindi pa pala. Ito pa pala. Yung mga neofruitons. Yung mga neofruitons naman po ay, these are just some individuals na somehow ay sila nga po ay agree with Sigmund Freud. Agree sila dun sa mga paniniwala, sa mga konsepto ni Sigmund Freud. But somehow, along the way din po ay they incorporated and may mga nakita din sila, may mga nag-disagree din sila, at some point dun sa mga ideas ni Sigmund Freud. So, some of the known ni Freudians po ay ito si Adler, si Erikson, si Carl Jung, or Carl Jung po ata yan. Okay? So, ayan, Adler, first to explore and develop a comprehensive social theory of psychodynamic person, proposed the concept of inferiority complex. Ayan, so it was Alfred Adler na he developed a certain approach na tinatawag na individual psychology, which was centered on the drive that all people have to compensate for their feelings of inferiority. So yun nga po yung konsepto ng inferiority complex. So he suggested that the inferiority complex was a person's feelings and doubts that they do not measure up to other people or to the society's expectations. Kaya nagkakaroon ng ganung feeling ang isang tao. So, Alfred Adler believed in the importance of social connection, seeing child development as emerging through social development rather than via sexual stages outlined by Sigmund Freud. So, yan yung madalas na parang dyan madalas na disagree yung itong mga neofruitons na to. Kasi nga, si Sigmund Freud is more on, ini-emphasize niya nga po yung sexuality, as one of the causes ng personality or behavior ng isang tao. So, and then, of course, ito po si Erik Erikson, kilala rin po siya in making the eight stages. He identified 8 stages, each of which represents a conflict or developmental task. The development of a healthy personality and a sense of competence depend on the successful completion of each task. So kung kay Sigmund Freud, gumawa po siya nitong psychosexual stages na tinatawag. Kay Erikson naman po is yung very known na theory of psychosocial development. So, psychosocial stages, yung 8. And he also suggested that the individual's personality is developed throughout the lifespan based on a series of social relationships. Na what affects or influence the personality of an individual along these stages is the social relationship with other people. So, in his psychosocial theory, he emphasized the social relationships that are important at each stage of personality development. Okay? So, unlike with Sigmund Freud na po, na he believed that personality was mostly set during early childhood, it was Erik Erikson naman na naniwala that the development continued throughout life. Kaya nga, mas mahaba yung stages of development niya, di ba? So, and he also believed that not all conflicts were unconscious, as opposed to Sigmund Freud na more of its unconscious mind po. So ito si Erickson, he thought that many were conscious and resulted from the developmental process itself. Tapos, another known neo-Freudian is Carl Jung, in which he developed a theory of personality called the analytical psychology. Okay, so one of his major contributions was this idea of collective unconscious, which he deemed a universal version of Freud's personal unconscious, holding mental patterns or memory traces that are common to all of us. So he also proposed the concept of the persona, referring to a kind of mask that we adapt based on both our conscious experiences and our collective unconscious. So it was Carl Jung nga po na siyang nag-propose nitong analytical psychology, and he introduced the concept of this collective unconscious. So he described this as a universal structure shared by all members of the same species, containing all of the instincts and archetypes which influence the human behavior, or basically it influences the human personality. So Carl Jung placed great emphasis on the unconscious, just the same with Sigmund Freud, but his theory placed a higher emphasis on his concept of the collective unconscious rather than the personal unconscious. So, and just like many other neo-Freudians, Carl Jung also focused less on sexuality, on sex than Sigmund Freud. Kasi nga, Sigmund Freud, again, it's more of sexuality. Isa sa mga niya yun. Kumbaga, binigyan ng emphasis. So most of the neo-Freudian ay yun yung doon lang po. Medyo nagkakaiba sila ng paniniwala. Okay, since Freud's theories focus heavily on sex, childhood experiences, and on psychopathology, o yung mga diseases of the mind. So, unlike with itong tatlong binigay kong example, from Erickson to Jung to Adler, they focus more on the positive aspects of human nature, as well as the social relationship or social influences which contribute to personality development, personality and behavior of an individual. Okay? O, yun lang. Okay? So, again, this presentation includes Sigmund Freud, psychoanalytic discipline, and then the case of Anna O. May humahabol pa. The case of Anna O. And then the psychosexual stages, and then of course the conscious, unconscious, and the pre-conscious or subconscious mind natin, the id-ego and the super-ego personality, and the defense mechanism. Okay? So, yun po yung natin. Yun po yung coverage lang ng ating quiz 1 up to this topic. Up to this topic. Okay? So, dito, selective amnesia. Selective amnesia, merong mga certain memory na naalala siya, tapos merong, parang butal yung yung memory niya. Okay? Merong isang scene. Yung ibang parte doon, naalala niya yung ibang hindi. Dalawa, sa buong 10 taon niya, yung 1 to 3 years old, or kumaga, may mga certain ages na naalala niya, merong hindi. Yun po yun. Okay? Anyway, again, yung atin pong quiz 1 ay dito lang. Okay, hanggang dito lang po yung coverage niya. From Copernicus, Darwin, and Freud. Okay? Question. Question po. From 3332, may question po ba tayo? Wala na? Okay, so kung wala na po,
Ma'am,
again, yes po.
anong type of exam nga po ulit yung sasabi?
The type of exam is identification. So, di ba madali lang? Di ba sabi ko nga last time, identifying, for example, that type of defense mechanism. Ginamit ko na yata yun eh. So, ayan, magbibigay ako ng mga scenario, tapos you will just identify what kind of defense mechanism. So, that's included. Acosta, yan po, yung coverage ng exam. Randomly, I selected some questions from Copernicus, from our discussions on Copernicus, discussions on Darwin, and of course, discussion on Sigmund Freud. Okay? Kasi 35 items lang yun eh, hindi naman ako pwedeng, ayoko na magbigay ng sobrang habang quiz. So, kaya randomly, I selected some questions lang doon po sa tatlong topic natin. Okay? Question. The duration, 1.5 po. So, kung ang exam natin ay, halimbawa 4:30 tayo madalas nag-meet, diba? Kung 4:30 ko, tama, 4:30 to 6. That will be the duration of the quiz. Kung gusto niya naman mas maaga on Saturday, kasi nga po, usually ang Saturday ay wala akong synchronous meetings niyan, asynchronous yan. Ibig sabihin, posting, doing your activities, yung mga ganun po. So, kung gusto niyo mas maaga, pwede din naman po. I-inform lang ako para alam ko kung kailan ako magpo-post ng natin. At ako kung may lakad ako ay hindi tatama dun sa oras ng posting natin. Okay? So, yun po. Basta inform na lang ako. Kung kung ayaw niyo naman ng mas maaga, edi yung oras po natin. Okay? Okay sa atin yung 4:30 to 6. Since 4:30 tayo madalas mag-meet, 3:3 and 3:2.
Pag-usapan na lang po muna po namin.
Sige. So, basta inform po ako before Saturday, and para maalala ko din, makalimutan ko. So, Saturday, hindi ako bubukas ng laptop. So, ayun po. Para maano ko din kung anong oras yung magiging posting natin. Pag-usapan po, 3:3 and 3:2. Okay? Ano pa ba? Yun lang. Okay? Kung wala na pong, tapos yung mga nakita niyong PPT po, kung hindi chinek niya na, yun po yung Cradles of Early Science is the next topic. So, may ilan tayo mga i-discuss po doon by Wednesday. Okay? By Wednesday po. Para makapag-discuss pa tayo ng ilan bago ako ikasal. Bago ko umuwi ng probinsya. Okay po.
Pagbati po.
Congrats, ma'am.
Enjoy, ma'am.
Sana all po. Charot.
So, bata pa kayo.
Congrats, ma'am.
Oo.
Ma'am, hindi kami imbitado.
Lumpia.
Lumpia.
Ma'am, hindi po kami imbitado.
Imbitado. Sige, punta kayo sa Albay, Bicol. Doon ang aking wedding. Ayan, nakikita nasa dapat. Mga bulaklak ng aking flower girl. Nandyan na. Nagdidatingan na. O yan, iuwi ko lang. Okay. So, DIY na.
Kinikilig ka, ma'am.
Ha? Kinikilig? Hindi naman. Medyo na-stress lang ng konti.
Kiss me.
Okay. And kasi, parang May 20.
Ma'am, first time niyo po?
Siyempre naman, aba. May 21 is the wedding. Tapos May 22 kasi ang first birthday ng baby ko. So, na siya. So, 2 events. So, medyo madami kailangan pang ayusin. So, yun.
Parang need nyo ng beauty rest for the rest of May. Charot.
Oo naman. So, kailangan pa rin natin magtrabaho at maraming gastos, di ba? So, ayun. Kung hindi ako makauwi, by next week, sure yun. Magkaklase po tayo by Wednesday. Tapos, kapag hindi ako nakauwi ng weekend noon, ay ibig kong sabihin, the following Wednesday, mag-week pa tayo. Okay? Pag nakauwi naman ako, i-inform ko kayo, malamang, after the wedding na yung next synchronous meeting natin. Okay? So, ganun po ha. Okay, tips, paano magkaasawa? Bata pa kayo. Ako po ay 38 na. Okay, so, huli na nga ako eh. O dapat so, saka na kayo. Okay? O sige, picture taking na po muna tayo.